saying to us. So let's hear him again. He says, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall." Jesus, help us tonight. Amen. On your way down, do me one more favor. This is the last favor. Tag a partner and say to them, "Friend." Tag a partner and say, "Friend, I'm under construction." Now pick your second choice. Go to your second choice. "Friend, I'm under construction." Okay, go ahead. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. So in 2020, on April 5th, 2020, my wife and I, we moved out of our downtown loft in downtown Joplin, Missouri, and into a house. We were like, we're about to kill the homeowner game. This is about to be like HGTV times 9,000. They're going to give us a TV show. So the night we get our keys, it clicked to us. We don't know what it actually means to own a house. We went to a public school system where they taught us Pythagorean's theorem. They taught us to say, "May I use the restroom?" What else did they teach us? What else did they teach us? They taught us conjunction junctions function. But what they didn't teach us was what to do when we owned a house. So we thought, okay, we don't actually know what we're going to do, so we're just going to jump right in. There are a few things no one told us about owning a house that we ended up learning by experience. For instance, no one told us that when you go from the 6th floor of a loft to the ground level in a neighborhood with nature, there's actually nature there. No one told me that. So check this. Last summer, I'm mowing the lawn. I didn't mow my lawn for the first year of owning this house. I paid someone to do it. So then my wife was like, "We got to stop wasting money on this kid. Buy a lawnmower, mow the lawn." So this is my first time mowing the lawn of my year-old house. And I'm mowing the lawn, and I'm going, and my wife, she's perfect, so she planted a garden in the back end of the yard. So I'm mowing my lawn, and I get right up to the garden, and I see a stick pop up that I accidentally ran over. And then I look closer, and that stick's head went back. And the stick's mouth opened up. And I don't know, the stick, its eyes went yellow and looked at me in the eyeballs. And I can't prove this, but when that stick looked at me in the eyeballs, I think it said, "I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want, but I have a particular set of skills. And when I get from under this lawnmower, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you." So, after the stick talks to me, I run into the house. I stiff arm my Australian Shepherd Roscoe. I Heisman over and hurdle over my German Shepherd Rottweiler Tank. I run past my wife. I pick up a shovel. I run into my house to the furthest corner away from the stick, and I hide in a corner with the shovel like this. My wife walks in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "There's a Demogorgon outside." And I was like, "You got to go do something about it. I'm the man of the house. Go do something about it." So she walks to the backyard. She sees the lawnmower, still running, mind you, sees the lawnmower with the little garter snake under it. She says, "Jaron, that's a snake. That's a little garter snake." And I said, "It's the devil woman." And so she starts being all nature lady, and she's trying to shoo the thing away and pick it up. And I'm freaking out on the inside. I'm literally dying. So finally, after 10 minutes of my wife being Dr. Doolittle, Snow White, talking to nature, I'm like, "Woman, move." I take the shovel, kill shot right there. Then I'm like, "Get in the house now. It's homies just saw us. They can't catch us slipping. We need to go rack up." No one told us that nature was a part of our house. You know what else no one told us? No one told me that when we own a house, I become a handyman. No one told me that. So the week we moved into my house, we've got a guest room. And my wife, she got these real cute curtains for the guest room. And she brings them in. I was like, oh, those are cool. Who gonna put them up? And then my wife, Tank, and Roscoe all at the same time, as soon as I asked that question, all three of them just looked at me and were like, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna put them up. So I go and get my $10 Walmart toolbox with like a hammer. That's all that's in it, like a hammer and a screwdriver. And some other stuff, I don't know the name of it. So I go and get the other stuff, and I take it to the guest room, and I pick where I want to put the rail, and I take a nail, and I go, boom. And immediately, a 6-inch circumference circle falls dead into the wall. And I was like, oh my Lord. So I do what I do best, and I put my problems off until later, so I went to the other side. And I was like, I'm just gonna try over here and come back to it. Put that nail, boom, same thing. 6-inch circumference hole, boom. So now I've got 2 6-inch circumference holes on either side of my thing. So I'm like, I gotta fix this. I gotta build my wall back. So I do what everybody does. I went to Google. And I was like, Google, what do you do when you have 2 holes in your wall? And the answer I got was, you need to go buy a plaster. And I was like, Google, what's a plaster? And so I was like, Google, okay, Google, you ain't working. So I text one of my homeboys, and I was like, yo, Brock, what do you do when you got a hole in your wall? And he was like, what kind of drywall do you got? And I was like, what's drywall? My wall's dry. I don't know why you want to know what drywall is. So Brock didn't work. So then I asked my mom. I mean, you get to a point when you're 28 and call your mama. So I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I need you to help. I got 2 holes in my wall. And she said, oh, just fill it in and paint over it. And I picked up my phone, and I was like, me? Paint? You gave me this beautiful caramel mocha skin, and you want me to get paint on it, Mama? Here's my situation. My guest room was a construction site. And I had questions that I needed answers to. My question was, how do I put this wall back together? I needed an answer so I could go on with building the thing back. No one told me that owning a house meant that my house would be a constant construction site, and every adult who owns a house in the room say amen. You know what no one told me about life? No one told me that life would be a constant construction project. Has anyone ever told you that life would be a constant construction project? Have you noticed it yet, that you're constantly in the process of building your life and building your relationships and building your journey and building yourself? You're constantly in the process of building a life, and it's full of questions. We've got a lot of questions that their answers end up dictating what we do as we build our life. Here's some of the big questions me and my homeboys have asked over time that I think y'all might ask. Is there a God? If so, what's this God like? Who am I? Better question, whose am I? Where do I belong? What's the point of this? What's the right thing for me to do? What makes something right? What makes something wrong? How will I be happy? What does it even mean to be satisfied? These are questions we have in this construction project called life. And the answer to those questions dictate what we do. Here's an example. Some of you have gotten an answer to the question of who you are, and that answer has ended up determining who you hang out with, who you identify with, and what you try to project out into the world. The answer to these questions are important. So here's the question I want to ask tonight in 19 minutes and 20 seconds. When I'm under construction, where can I get answers for my questions? I'm under construction. That's the conversation that Jesus is going to invite us into tonight. What Jesus, he's going to end up giving us a conversation. He's going to end up giving us guidance on where to get answers for our questions. But I like what Jesus does. Check what Jesus does. Jesus, he answers our question. He's my favorite kind of person. He answers my question with his own question. And here's Jesus' question to you, friends. What kind of builder will you be? Is Jesus, what he in essence says is, technically, you're allowed to go anywhere you want for answers. So the real question is, what kind of builder will you be? And there are two kinds of builders Jesus is going to show us. One builder goes to one place for answers to their questions. Another builder goes to another place for answers to their questions. He says, friends, listen to me. What kind of builder will you be? You want to know what the two kind of builders is that Jesus paints a picture of? The first kind of builder, Jesus says there's a foolish builder. Shout that word, foolish. One more time, foolish. Shout it one more time, foolish. So Jesus says a foolish builder is one who hears his words but doesn't do them. A foolish builder is one who hears his words but doesn't build their life with the answers that he gives. You know what foolish means? Foolish means that you're senseless. It means you don't think things all the way through. So my senior year of high school, on the back end of my senior year of high school, I started dating this girl. She was a real pretty girl. And we ended up having that high school sweetheart summer loving. We was going on movie dates together. We was in parks. We was texting. We was doing all the cute stuff, real cute stuff. So then that summer, I went to play basketball at a college about 3 hours north of where I grew up at. And like my first day of campus, I saw this other girl. Yo, I'm saved now. I'm better now than I was then. I saw that other girl, and I was like, girl, I want to have some puppies and a house and a life with you. We're going to have to be together. But here's my dilemma. My high school sweetheart was at home. So here was my plan. I thought, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Girls, don't hate me. I'm bad. I know. I was a bad person. Don't hate me. I told myself, I'm going to break up with my high school sweetheart. Not all the way, just enough. So I'm not going to break up with her enough so she's totally gone, but I'm going to break up with her enough so I can start wilding. So I started doing things like when she'd text me and say, I love you, babe, I'd say, you too. I know. No, don't clap. No. Girls, if a boy next to you just clapped, stay away from him, red flag. Run far. So check this. I somehow break up with this girl just enough, and I start chasing the new girl around, and we all went to this one function together at like Taco Bell or something. I thought, this is my chance. So I was like, hey, new girl, let me get your number. And she said, no. So I was like, no? So I leave Taco Bell, I drive back to campus, I storm into my room, I get my phone, and I text my high school girlfriend, I say, baby, you're the only one for me. I love you. Do you love me? Are you riding? You said you never ever leave from beside me. Because I want you, and I need you. And you know what she texts me back with? Who's this? For some reason, when I was concocting my devious plan to halfway break up with the girl, I didn't think it all the way through and realized that when you break up with someone, they actually leave. I was foolish. I didn't think my plan all the way out. Jesus says foolishness is not thinking it all the way out. Jesus says when you hear my words but don't do them, it's foolish. You're making a fool of yourself. You're living a life that's not thought all the way out. Push it further. The book of James says when you hear Jesus' words but don't do Jesus' words, you're not only foolish, but you deceive yourself. Here's a better way of saying it. Y'all get this one. James, in his best DJ Khaled voice, says, congratulations. You just played yourself. James, if he were in this room, Jesus' little brother, he would say, oh, you've grown up in youth group to hear all the sermons, but you haven't grown to live it out. Congratulations, you just played yourself, friends. Oh, you've memorized the scripture, but you haven't actually done it. Congratulations, you just played yourself, friends. Oh, you talk it, but you ain't walked it. Congratulations, you just played yourself, friends. Jesus says, if you hear it and don't do it, you're a fool. You're deceiving yourself. And he pushes it further. Check this. We are getting answers from somebody. If it's not Jesus, it's somebody. Who are you getting your answers from? Is it your feelings? Is it somebody on Snapchat? Is it the people around you? Is it something you see on the internet? Somebody's informing your understanding on who God is, who you are, what you ought to be doing. Someone's giving you answers. And Jesus says, as you're living out those answers, you're deceiving yourself. It's foolishness. And here's why it's foolishness. Jesus says, because he says this person, they're like someone who wanted to build their forever home and went and found a beach and put their home on a beach, and a storm came and waves came and it knocked the whole house over immediately. Jesus says when you build on someone's answers that aren't his own, it ends up building a life that has a foundation that can't sustain you when life storms hit. Does that make sense? So check this. I was playing chicken with some friends once in the swimming pool, but here's the only thing: I can't swim. So we're in like the 4 foot deep end, and I'm like, and they're on my back, and I'm like, I'll try, girl. I'll try to keep you up. And the other person on top, she didn't even push my partner hard. She just kind of, and me, my non-swimming self, she pushes my partner, and my legs start noodling over. And I start suffocating, and I got some water in my eyes, and everything blacked out, and I could have sworn a shark bit me. And immediately I crumble, and my friend fell. We looked real good. I was just way too weak to hold her up. Jesus says when you build a life with someone's answers who aren't yours, your foundation, your support system, that which you're leaning on cannot hold you up when life storms hit. There are two kinds of storms he's talking about. One, he's just talking about general storms in life, when hard stuff happens, when life happens. When life just gets tough, everything will fall apart. I have a friend who built their whole identity on basketball. They went and played basketball at the college I went to, and they ended up having to leave the school, couldn't play basketball anymore. And when that storm hit, they had no clue who they were. They had no clue what it meant to be happy once basketball was taken away from them, because they built their whole life on basketball. And then the other kind of storm, he's talking about the ultimate storm of life. Jesus teaches that when we all die, we'll all stand in front of God, and God's going to inspect our lives. He says when you build a life based on anyone's answers that aren't Jesus's, you're not going to pass that inspection. I've built foolishly at times. Have you? I've built on someone else's answers before. Have you? Jesus says you can be a foolish builder. Or he says you can be a wise builder. Shout that word, wisdom. One more time, wisdom. One more time, wisdom. So Jesus says the one who hears my words and does them, he's a wise builder. He's a wise builder. Wisdom means I understand what the world is. I know what to do, and I know how to do it. A pastor that I grew up listening to, he talks about when he was in college, and he said he didn't do homework at all. He was really Spirit-led in his homework, and the Spirit always led him away from homework. So one time the Spirit led him to homework, and so he said he spent days typing out this paper. He said it was his best paper ever. It was his best work, and he got done like a week early. So he walks that paper into his professor's office, because he's like, I'm not waiting until the day to turn it in to take it to her. I'm going to take it to her now. So he storms into her office. He doesn't even say a word. He opens the door. He has the paper. He slams it. He says, take it, and then walks out. And he's like, I passed that. That's my best work. And then he said a week later it came, and they were in class, and the professor starts handing out those assignments back. You ever got a paper back where I don't know, do y'all still get paper assignments back? Okay, so check this. You ever got a paper back where the teacher folds that thing? He said the teacher handed him back a folded assignment, and he opened it up, and in a big red letter, it said F. And it said, great work, you just did the wrong assignment. He didn't know what the assignment was. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know the right way to do it. But my wife, she graduated with a 4.0 from 2 colleges. Every assignment she ever had, she fully understood the nature of the assignment. She fully knew what she was supposed to do, and she knew the right way to do that thing. My wife, check this. She understood all the assignments. Wisdom is fully understanding the assignment. Wisdom is knowing what to do, and wisdom is knowing how to get it done. Jesus says, you're building wisely, you're understanding the assignment when you hear my words and you put them into practice. Check this. One of the things I've learned just from being a Christian for about 14 years now, one of the things I've learned that keeps me from going to Jesus for answers for my questions is there are times where I can convince myself that Jesus has nothing to say about what I'm thinking about. Listen to me, friends, close. Jesus has something to say about what you're thinking about. Jesus cares about what's keeping you up at night. Jesus has an answer for every single question. Jesus says, I want to be the one giving you answers. And he says, here's what happens when you hear my words and do them and I give you answers. He says, it's like you build your forever home on a rock, on a firm foundation, and a wind comes and a storm comes and the storm passes and nothing happens. Jesus says, when you build your life with my answers, the answers I give you will be a foundation for you that can sustain the storm. Listen close. Don't get it twisted. Listen to what Jesus didn't say. Jesus did not say, when you follow me, there won't be a storm. Don't get him twisted. I have a lot of friends who've ended up walking away from Jesus because they've convinced themselves, and I do it at times, that following Jesus means no storm, means no hard, means nothing uncomfortable, means everything's easy. Jesus says, no, I'm not getting you out of the storm. My words will sustain you through the storm. Life will hit you sometimes, but I will hold you up every single time. He says, I'm going to get you through the storm. A few years ago, I heard a story of this cat named B. And B, he was asking a question. The question he ended up asking was, where do I belong? And Jesus answered and said, you belong in my family with my people. So he built his life on that answer, and he actually started going to youth group. Quick plug, keep going to youth group after CIY. So he went to youth group, and he said 3 months after he started going to youth group, his parents divorced. And he said, that was the hardest time of my life. The kid was in high school, your age. And he said, I was sadder than I'd ever been. I was more sleepless than I'd ever been. I was more anxious than I'd ever been. And it had been 3 years later, so my obvious question was, why are you here still? Why are you happy? How'd you make it through? And he said, the community that Jesus gave me sustained me all the way through that thing. And they cried with me, and they prayed with me, and they listened to me. He built his life on the word of Jesus, and that word that you belong in my family sustained him through the terrible storm of life. Just recently, I was in therapy last fall, working through some stuff. And my therapist, she pointed out, she was like, Jaron, I think you've been placing your identity in what you do. I ended up taking that, my question was, who am I? And the answer I ended up receiving was, you are what you do, which meant when my life and job was going good, I felt like a great person. When my life and job were going bad, I felt worthless. And then so we ended up talking through that, and then I heard Jesus say one day in the scripture, he said, no, you are who I say you are regardless of what you do. And my wife, she started helping me live that out, and I'm going to be honest, right after that, life started to suck. My job started to go really bad. I had people tell me that the thing that I do bad. But you know what happened? I went to bed every night happy and at peace. My identity didn't feel threatened because Jesus gave me a foundation on his word of him saying, you're my child. Jesus' word gets you through life's storms. And then it gets you through the big storm. The big storm, like I said, God's judgment. When God brings us to him after we all die, the one thing he's looking for is, did you follow Jesus? When God inspects your life at the end of it all, he's going to look for, did you hear Jesus' words and did you do Jesus' words? And Jesus says, if you hear my words now and do them now, at the end when God inspects your life, you'll pass. You'll get through that storm. Listen, it might not look normal, but it's still right. Following Jesus won't look normal in your family. It won't look normal in your school. It won't look normal to what you see. Do y'all use Twitter still? It won't look normal to what you see on Insta. Do y'all use that still? But it's right. It'll get you through the storm. So Jesus says, what kind of builder are you going to be? You're going to be the foolish builder who plays themselves, who hears my words and doesn't build on my answers? Or are you going to be a wise builder who hears my words and builds on my answers? So I was writing this sermon a few weeks ago, and I got to that point when I was writing and thinking, and I thought, I don't know. And then it hit, and I thought, it all comes down to who I trust, don't it? You accept the answers of the person you trust. That's why you are doing what people on social media are telling you to do for clout, because you trust them. That's why you're doing what your friends are telling you will make you happy, because you trust them. You accept the answers of the person that you trust. So at some point, we've got to ask the question, whose answers am I building with? But even more so, why on earth do I trust them? Jesus, 3 times in the Gospel of John, he says, trust me, trust my words because of what I do. Jesus says, my actions are proof that you can trust what I say. So there's this dude I learned about a few months ago on YouTube. He got real big on YouTube. He jumped on YouTube and he started recording videos of himself in big houses with like 9 Lamborghinis in the garage, and he had like a Shark Tank over here, and he real swole and real pretty looking dude. And he got on YouTube and he was like, if you buy my program and listen to what I say, then you'll get all this. And people started buying what he was selling, and he got rich. And then about 3 years later, it came out, none of that stuff was his. He didn't own the house. He didn't own the cars. He was a fraud. He was a fake. He didn't actually put in the work to legitimize his words, so people stopped buying what he was selling because he wasn't the real deal. He didn't put in the work to legitimize his words. We believe people. We buy the words of people who put in the work. That's why when some of you wanted to learn how to shoot a basketball, you accepted the words of Steph Curry because he's done the work of breaking 3-point records. Some of you, when you wanted to learn how to sing, you listened to Adele, Beyonce, Taylor Swift because they've done the work of Grammy albums. Some of you, when you want to learn how to cook, you listen to the words of SpongeBob because he's put in the work of putting out the Krabby Patties into the streets. Some of you, when you wanted to learn how to paint, you listen to Bob Ross because he's put in the work of Happy Little Mistakes that are beautiful. You listen to the words of the people that put in the work. And Jesus says, I've put in the work. Have you heard about what his work is? Here's the quick rundown of what Jesus' work is. He really is God who was before time actually began. He really lived out there before space had a place to be anywhere. He really was born into the world, somehow stayed God through the womb of a woman without the help of any man. He really lived a completely human life in complete perfection. He really died on a cross on a hill that he himself created. He actually laid down in some other man's tomb. He really endured the storm of death on Friday. He really endured the storm of death on Saturday. He really endured the storm of death into Sunday, but way early Sunday morning, way before the sun rose, he himself got back up. And the fact that Jesus rose proves that he's really the real deal. The fact that Jesus... The fact that he really rose proves that he himself is God like he said. The fact that he got up proves that his words are truth and reality. The fact that he got up proves that his words can sustain you. Do you hear him talking to you? He's saying, you're asking, who's God? And he says, a good father. You say, who am I? And you say, God. He says, God's. You say, where do I belong? He says, my family. You say, what's life about? He says, to love and be loved by me and my people. He said, you ask, what's going to make me happy? He says, me. Then I say, I put my faith in Jesus. He's my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and my firm foundation. And whatever storm may come, he ain't gonna let me down. See you under construction? You got questions that need answers, because those answers end up determining how you live your life. And you're asking, where do I go? Jesus says, you can trust me. I'll give you real good answers. And I like what Jesus says. I'm done right here. I'm done right here. The very first word of that parable, Jesus says, here's the best word, one of the best things Jesus ever said. He says, everyone who hears my words. You know who's included in everyone? Everyone. You say, I messed up. That's who Jesus came for. A bunch of messed up people like us. You say, I'm all kinds of confused. Jesus says, come on to the table. Jesus was notorious. His whole reputation while he was on earth was for including the people who were excluded, the worst of the worst people, the nastiest people, the dirtiest people, the most shame-filled and guilty people. Jesus said, come and hear my words. And he's inviting you tonight. He's inviting you to come be a wise builder and to build your life with his words. Jesus, thank you for your invitation. Help us to hear you. Amen.